Hello, everybody. Can I ask you to sit, to sit on your chairs, so we can start this last part of the Smart Cities Marketplace Forum. So this afternoon, we will have a discussion about the community of the Smart Cities Marketplace. So it's quite a big community. We have several thousands of people that have signed up to our newsletter. We have more than 2,000 people who are part of an action cluster. And that's really nice. So we have quite a big group of people that are following what the Smart Cities Marketplace is doing, are contributing to it, and also are leading the work on it. So we will have a slightly different setup than you are used from us. So this afternoon we will not have the traditional action cluster meetings that are about a specific topic, but we will look into the future of the community of the Smart Cities Marketplace. Because we know there are a lot of new developments going on, and also there will be a new support contract for the Smart Cities Marketplace. We will hear more about that in a minute. in a minute. And it means that it will change, and also the community will change. And of course, we hope that everybody goes with us through this transition to a new form. But this afternoon, we also are really interested to hear from you your suggestions of what to do in this next phase, next edition of the Smart Cities Marketplace. Your recommendations on topics, on formats, on templates, etc. And we will do that in the form of an interactive BarCamp discussion, where we have singled out 9 cross-cutting topics. And we will see who is interested to join which topic, but I will come back to that later. So for now, I would like to invite to the stage Georg Huben, working for DG Enner, and he will explain more to us about the new, this new edition that you have in the making of the Smart Cities Marketplace, and where you see developments going. You can be seated, you can walk around, whatever you want.
I would walk around.
Yeah,
I would
perfectly fine.
Stand, if that's fine. Now, these are the BarCamp topics. That's not exactly what... Here we go. Yeah. So, before you expect a big shock that we go from black to white, it's not like that. We will keep what works, if I may say so, and we will drop what doesn't. So it's an effort to improve the mechanics of the marketplace and give a better access to the existing community of the marketplace, and open up for future topics and future people who are interested in getting active. And that means we look at machinery like that. I hope this is still sort of readable and accessible and sort of logic. What most of you are familiar with by now is the Explore, Shape, Deal process. That will remain the backbone process of the marketplace. So we will still keep that, but we will add new elements to each of these 3 pillars. If we look at the Explore, there will be a new wiki. Wiki, we will use that in order to structure all the knowledge which is available, the projects, the best practices, the blueprints, the stories, the news, the guidance papers, you name it. We will structure that by the topics, so that users, you, but everybody else, can find the respective topics and guidance and people to talk to and so on and so forth in an easy, very, let's say, common way already known by Wikipedia, in fact. So we will use a commission-owned wiki toolbox for that, which is very similar to what you already know. And the idea here is also to build on what already has been provided in terms of a process by the Smart City Guidance Package. Some of you know that. The Smart City Guidance Package is, if you want, an umbrella document taking cities, entities, companies, whoever wants to go about a smart city project through a process of planning and implementation. an ISO standardized process if you want. So this is a bit of a parallel structure to the wiki. That would be sort of parallel, a parallel structure which is coherent and will take you from step A to step Z in fact. So this is the first part. What will remain in the Explorer is, of course, an extensive and even expanded project database. So it's not only the usual suspects, that is the funded projects, you already know. And I should say that the Smart Cities Lighthouse projects will, of course, remain an important part of that. But what we also hope to see in the future is projects which are dropping out of the funnel at the very end, after the deal stage. So projects which receive financing from the marketplace shall also be fed back, and you see this feedback arrow here, into the Explorer phase, into the best practices mentioned in the wiki, into the guidance mentioned in the wiki, but also into the project database. So that users who are interested in a specific approach and a specific solution can actually find that, and also find those people who they need to talk to. So next stage is shape. Also that stage will remain. That is, we know that once people have picked up an idea for a project, they need to get help for shaping that into something which becomes an attractive offer to investors and banks. So shaping is all about driving these projects to the stage where they become financeable and investable. So truly bankable approaches. But what we saw is that actually the shape phase is exactly the phase which is suffering most. It's the phase which actually asks for most of the work, for most of the bilateral meetings and most of the sort of exchanges between parties, and designing things and discussing what is needed in order to drive the process to become financeable and attractive to investors and so on. So some of that thinking goes into a few new elements here. There is an online collaboration space. The online collaboration space, and that's a novelty as well, because it will make an end to the classic structure we know, action clusters, initiatives. We'll only have an online collaboration space. Most of the action clusters initiatives will be transferred to a group on that online collaboration space. So really on the same sort of level of collaboration. We are not following a strict structure any longer. So we want that all these different initiatives and groups really collaborate and have an exchange on things which are needed and to drive the process of shaping projects in the end. That would also allow for new topics, but also for consortia. So if there is any cities, companies or entities who want to team up for a project, they would also be able to use that online collaboration space to form their proposal or their project, whatever, in order to drive it forward as part of the shape phase. The second novelty is a one-to-one consultancy service. That's not money, but that's an in-kind service which is worth a lot of money. I don't know who of you have ever hired consultancies for preparing projects. I guess a number of you guys have prepared project proposals for calls for proposals, I guess. So, and that means cost and effort and time. So the one-to-one consultancy services will be provided to those groups and consortia who are very close to the deal stage, to push them in the right direction and to foster this process, let's say, on the last mile. Then we will have financing masterclasses that you already know. So we keep them because they work very well. We have tested those approaches with the Celsius Initiative as well as the Covenant of Mayors. And there is an opportunity, of a wide open opportunity, to use that same approach of financing masterclasses with any other initiative we can think of. For example, Living in EU, Civitas, when we talk about digital assets or mobility and so on. Then we have a network of experts. The network of experts is designed in a way that we would have ideally one expert for each EU language. And why is that? Very simple. We have learned that there are some regions and countries who have still a difficulty to approach and get into this sort of innovation cycle of European ideas, no? Simply due to language issues. And what we we really want to make an end to that and really want to see how we can help the process by simply providing an expert who speaks the language and who is able to translate what is available in terms of guidance to that specific language, to kickstart the process of interested parties. That doesn't help the whole of the process, of course, but it helps kickstarting it, at least. Then, if we look to the deal, well, fast track to finance, well, that's always the case, and it will be the case also in the future. We want to fast track projects to finance. We want that more and more projects are financed, best practices, stuff which is available and which can be replicated easily. So I'm really speaking about stuff which is not fancy and cutting edge, but things which work. What we have not had so far in this picture is companies. Companies have not been a natural part of this approach so far. We were only speaking to cities. So, well, almost exclusively to cities or to consultants which were hired by cities to, to develop projects. We do think, looking at the Lighthouse projects, but also looking at the mission on cities, that the companies should be an essential and intrinsic part of this approach. So what the new marketplace will be about is also a consortium-driven approach, meaning that we try to have this 360-degree view, both on the end of those ones preparing the projects and developing it, and on the end of the investors. So also making for example, private equity and that stuff to really help those companies enter the picture. So that's about it in a nutshell. You see two boxes, one on the top and one on the bottom. On the top, we have the advisory board. That's another novelty. So the advisory board will, very much in the fashion of the Covenant of Companies and Covenant of Mayors, form a board which is advising on the next steps of the marketplace. So really engaging with key stakeholders, which would also include, of course, relevant commission services. I'm thinking for now, of course, of the colleagues of DG Connect, DG Move, but there will be more. There will be DG Grow, DG Redu, you name it. So anyone who has a stake in this city business and might help to steer the operations of the marketplace is invited to do so. Of course, we will find what the constitution of that, advisory board is. That is not yet decided and defined, but that will hopefully help. And you see, underneath, and it's not meant in terms of priority, but underneath as the basis, the foundation, we have the community, and that's you. So the community truly means the community. So we will no longer, as said, stick to an old-fashioned structure, which lately and most recently is not really serving the purpose of being agile, answering to the most pressing needs, and so on and so forth. So really hope to make an end to this sort of going in circles, steam talking, producing hot air. This is really all about purpose-driven and result orientation. And that also might need that we get rid of stuff which is not needed or not working. Okay, so I know I'm running out of time, but I will speed up a bit. When we talk about connection to other initiatives, we have two waves, if I may say so, of targeted activities. The first wave is activities with flagship initiatives and EU-level initiatives where we think that already a sort of a commitment-driven approach has been established. So we use these commitments and offer the marketplace as a way to fulfill them. If I look, for example, at the Covenant of Mayors, you are all very familiar with the C-Cups, I guess. So it's a way of taking these C-Cups, the commitments which are there, and to realize those with the help of the marketplace, or at least in parts realize them. We have the Horizon Europe mission on climate neutral and smart cities, where we have the 100, but we also have the 277. Like those ones not being selected, not being in the club for now. So we think that we also should offer something to them in order to help them to still stick to their ambition, their commitment, their ideas, and help them with financing to get closer to that strong ambition. And then we have, of course, scalable cities, I see a few colleagues here in the room, all the lighthouse cities, but also the fellow cities, which have also a growing network of entities, companies, cities, who can help advancing, replicating, scaling up the demonstrated solutions. And we have Civitas, and yeah, we have also the Living in EU, I see, in the second wave. Living in EU, therefore in the second wave, because we need to have a talk about what kind of commitment-driven approach we can establish here. For Civitas, we have the SUMPs, which might be familiar to you guys. For Living in EU, Norin, I guess we need to sort of see how we can realize that and how we can sort of put that in practice. And then last but not least, I'm sorry to taking so much time. This is a bit of a summary. You will all have this as a PDF that will be provided by the Marketplace team. So this is a bit of a summary of what I just talked about. Trying to put in a nutshell the added value which comes with the evolution, we hope. So you see, it's not an all-new marketplace, but it's a different marketplace. And I hope this is adding to your engagement, so you feel even more engaged in the future. And I also hope that this will, let's say, feed into the ambition we all have and answer some of the pressing needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Georg, for this comprehensive overview in a nutshell. Before we go into the BarCamp session, I would like to invite the Action Cluster chairs to come on the stage and share with us in a few minutes what they see as main achievements and successes, things you're really proud of that you have achieved in the last period. The action clusters exist for nearly 10 years, so it would be good to have a very short recap of all the things that happened in those 10 years. So please come on stage and have a seat. Okay, I hope we can do this fast. Not to cut you short, but because we also have to go to the interactive part. So I would like to start with you, Maria. I know you did a lot of fantastic things with the manifesto and the cities that signed up to it. So maybe that's also something you want to share with us. But please go ahead, use these 3 minutes to bring to the floor all the things that, nice things that have happened in the action cluster.
Yeah, thank you very much, Judith. With the Citizen Focus Action Cluster, we started, I think, in a period when citizen engagement was much more of a will and a generic commitment than an action plan. Since then, things have changed quite a lot. I really hope that we also, in our community and network as a cluster, we contributed to make this as really as a cross-cutting and more actionable topic for smart cities, clearly now it's embedded into Horizon calls much more prominently and all across the different initiatives from the European Commission that requires to co-create with citizens and engage them since the beginning. In terms of our achievements, I'm particularly proud of, as you mentioned, our Inclusive Smart Cities Manifesto that we presented and disseminated widely and also translated into different languages back in 2018. And this was really a call to action for the cities, and we had also selected several ambassador cities disseminating their good practices on citizen engagement and co-creation. Then more recently we contributed to the Citizen Engagement Solution Toolkit from the Smart Cities Innovation system. That was also a very good achievement. And then we worked through our several initiatives. We have all the representatives here in the room. Please, guys, raise your hands if you want to make yourself visible and then be contacted. Through the initiatives, we focused on citizen engagement methods, so participatory budgeting and democratic innovations, on knowledge tools with Citizen City and its taxonomy of available materials and knowledge on citizen engagement, on cross-cutting topics such as citizen control on personal data with the initiative connected with data vaults, and also on policy design and regulatory aspects by engaging with mayors, thanks to the network of policy labs on smart cities that was generated. So I think, to conclude, that we really acted as a sort of connecting dots type of community, facilitating the knowledge sharing, starting from the knowledge made available by Horizon project and Lighthouses projects, but also connecting with civil society organizations that are very important to be brought on board within the smart cities ecosystems. So we liaised with the European Young Innovators Forum, with Democratic Society, and many others. That's it.
Thank you, Maria. I think it's a really good overview, and everything that Maria's mentioned, you also can find it on the website. So, Paul, what are you particularly proud of?
It's working. Yes.
It's working.
Thank you, Judith. So I'm Paul Cartevels, the Action Cluster Leader for Sustainable Built Environment. And I'll try to be shorter, but I think you've said a lot of things. I started only in 2015, so I don't have the 10 years perspective on the action itself. But back in December 2015, the Commission asked me, if you take the lead, you need an initiative. And that's when I came with a project from still FP7 called Next Buildings, where there was, in French, an îlot à énergie positive. Rudy there knows it really well. He was working on that project called Hikari. The building in Lyon was called Hikari. And I tried to name it l'îlot à énergie positive, the positive energy block. So that's December 2015. I tried to use this, but energy is the alibi. It's not the final objective. Because for positive energy, you need all the best technologies, but you also need the functional mix. I tried to introduce the human part into these highly technological parts. The positive energy block was also about technological excellence for urban regeneration. Because when you have apartments, offices, and commercial space, the place lives 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and can use the energy. It's a classic now. They can use the energy at the best moments. Back then, it was quite original. So the positive energy blocks, thanks to the Commission, became more ambitious positive energy districts in the set plan and in the smart cities calls. So it made a lot of little babies. It totally overwhelmed me. I was just, not responsible of all the rest. But at least the idea came from there. So I'm really proud that we changed the near zero emission and energy districts. That was the name before. I said, this is not a good name. Positive energy district also speaks to the people when you hear it. That's important. So that's one thing. We had the deep retrofitting initiative also for some time, long before the renovation wave. Now it's there. So we are very happy about all those initiatives of the Commission. Then we started just before the COVID with Aksana, an initiative on heating and cooling, trying to promote the Celsius project results. And then there was another initiative that we could not foster more, which I called the nature-based cities. Because you have to know that here we speak a lot about energy, but the Commission is one step further. It's energy, it's climate mitigation, but adaptation, like the Portuguese Cascais said, and water, circular economy, pollution control, and biodiversity issues. If you want to have finance, you have to do all that. So these are the things we try to do in our action cluster with a lot of field visits also. A lot of field visits in Lyon, in Tampere, in Brussels, of course. So voilà, that's it. And we had a great time. And in the new version, we'll try to find a way to continue.
Yep. Thank you, Paul. You can take the mic with you and pass it to Jürgen Rietzek and Derek Pisani from the Action Cluster Business Models and Finance. So, what are the things you are particularly proud of?
Yeah, well, you said you started 2015. Derek and I, we started Q4 2019. So a good 2.5 years, let's say 3-4 months before Corona started. So it was a rather challenging period. And I still remember when we talked with Georg in September, and we said, Georg, listen, be sure that if you want to give that to us, what you get, you won't get papers, you get practice. That's what we said, and I think that is what we like most. That we believe that's what we have delivered. So we had the chance to restructure the action cluster. So we put it along the different lines, the lines of financing and the lines of processes, and we brought in practice. We brought in someone like an Austrian company who have developed a digital financing platform. And Winfried Braumann, who is leading that initiative, cannot be here, but my regards from him to you. We brought back, to a certain extent, procurement. Because business model finance was originally called end procurement. And pre-commercial procurement was even mentioned here by the representative from Brussels as a very relevant stage in making things happen. And that was brought in by a new project. So it's companies and projects what we brought in. On the horizontal line, we integrated our work with other action clusters. So we brought in urban data platforms together with external projects working on blockchain-based middleware, how to get data further to make them accessible in the form of standardization for financing, where we got Basel Energy Agency in, showing us something about insurances for energy savings, for all that process. So we brought in the business side, the real practice, and that together with the challenging work with the environment, but with all other action clusters, obviously with Derek, with Georg, that was a great pleasure.
Thank you. Derek, you have something to add?
Yeah. The people who know me know that I came to this Smart Cities marketplace not as an action cluster lead, but initially putting in a commitment. I had just moved to Brussels, and I was thinking, how do I take my experience of 10 years in the public sector in a very small country? I come from Malta. What do I do with this knowledge? And I decided the good thing to do is to keep the same dimension, so I focused on cities, because there are cities which are much bigger than the country that I come from. And that's my start of the relationship with the Smart Cities marketplace. So to be honest, I am humbled by having worked with some of the people who have been here from the start, have been able to transform, I think it was 3,000 commitments into action clusters, for the good and the bad. It's very easy to look back always and say, oh, what we did not do. Georg knows me very well, and I am very critical when I am in the same room and not in a very big audience like today, online and offline. I served as the project manager of this project, and so I had a lot of opportunity to be critical. But today, I think we need to recognize, and this is what I asked from Judith when she asked me, what do you think we should do on this day? I said, I think we should celebrate. And we should celebrate because there is so much that came out of the action clusters, out of the initiatives, that is completely hidden. There is so much that came out of the lighthouse projects that is completely hidden. And the reason why it's hidden is because it's difficult to keep a tab on everything that is happening. So I, who know some of the action cluster and initiative leads personally, I think my biggest contribution was the conversations which I had with them, that they had with me, and where we saw what a particular piece of knowledge that was created in the action cluster or an initiative walk all the way up into a little project somewhere in a city. And I think my biggest failure, in fact, So if we have to talk about successes, we talk about also the failures, which I would have liked to do and did not do enough, particularly because I wanted to do something and then COVID came to disrupt our plans, was to get more of us to meet, more of the ones that actually made it from an idea till the end, to inspire others to do the same. And I think if we had to look forward and say, what is the action cluster of tomorrow, is precisely this consortium approach, is this idea that when you have a successful element, that in itself is already a big celebration. Because so very few ideas make it till the end. And yet, so few of those that make it till the end get copied. So if we can see the ones that did it, that built the consortium, that got a little bit of finance, and we show why it did, I'm sure we can build a marketplace, Smart Cities Marketplace 2.0, which is much bigger than the expectations which we have today.
Thank you, Derek, also for making a very nice bridge to the future. So, Grazia, you are here instead of Graham. We miss him dearly. Unfortunately, he was not able to join us today. But you will be highlighting from your perspective with the geospatial cities, and I will complete a bit the other things. For
Indeed,
you.
Judith,
Yeah,
thank you.
ahead.
I mean, I can read from the website, but I'm not aware about what the other initiatives have done. So I'm leading the Geospatial Cities Initiative, which is about making available raising awareness on how you can use data from space and spatial data more in general to make cities more sustainable. So in the last 6 months, I've mainly concentrated on making some videos and some visual case studies on how cities, regions, and SMEs use Copernicus data. You may know that the European Union, since a few years, has 2 systems of satellites, Galileo, which is for navigation, GPS, and Copernicus, which is about Earth observation. And the images that we receive from these satellites are much more than pictures, because you can see their changes in terms of humidity, soil occupation, soil use, air quality, green spaces within and around cities. So we made available on the website of the Smart City Marketplace as well, and they should be showcased here at the point. A few videos concerning the city of Prague, the first one, which uses Earth observation to monitor air quality and adapt the urban infrastructure to climate change, because even cities that are not traditionally suffering from heat, like Prague, actually are struggling with climate change. One about the city of Rhodes, which is an island in Greece, of course, which uses Earth observation data from the Copernicus constellation to monitor soil movement about cultural heritage sites and plan conservation measures. One about the Wallonia region that I'm going to showcase in the boot camp if it is selected, which uses Earth observation data to monitor floods and then better manage them. One about, okay, I'm not going to list them all, but the important thing is that they are subtitles in 5 languages for ease of access, and that they've been produced with a very, very small budget. So if we get something more in the future, we can do better.
Thank you, Grazia. So for very practical stuff that the people who are interested, please go to Grazia's BarCamp session, because you will hear more. I will add a bit for the action cluster for integrated infrastructures and processes, because Graham Colclough unfortunately couldn't be here, but sent his regards. I think what was very interesting there was the research done on the urban data platforms that was actually a measurement. It was done in collaboration with Erasmus University of Rotterdam, and it was a very good snapshot of how urban data platforms are used, but also about requirements to them and expectations in future. So I think it's really interesting, that research, and you also can find it on the website, of course. I would also like to mention the small giants to highlight the perspective of the small and medium-sized cities. And we know all that for small and medium-sized cities it's less easy, you have less resources. So I think that there's also a lot of things happening there. Information on how to implement, how to prepare for smart city plans. So I think that's very interesting. And I also would like to mention briefly the Six Nations Forum, because just before the break we had a very engaging discussion about the member states being a bit absent in the smart cities discussion, and that it would be good to highlight it more. From the action cluster integrated planning policies and regulations led by Simona Costa, I would really very briefly, because I know we're terribly running out of time, but I also see that it's good to celebrate these achievements. I would briefly highlight the work done on standards by Bernard Guindreau, the establishment of a new initiative on regulatory frameworks by Annemie. I know you have done a lot of interesting things, also in combination with Positive City Exchange, to explore where are really the bottlenecks in practice. So that is definitely a very important point also for the future. And last but not least, I'm really proud, Georg, that the Smart City Guidance Package, that they made it to the next edition of the Smart Cities Marketplace as part of the wiki. Because when we started the work, I think our expectations were much lower. But we saw that there were so many discussions coming back again and again. So we thought maybe we should develop something like a Smart City Guide for Dummies. But then we adjusted the title a bit, because maybe people are put off if you phrase it like that. And I think it was really nice, because I felt like it was a huge collaborative effort where we got so much input from the entire community. We had nearly 100 cities, research institutes, businesses providing us with information. I was just explaining to Philippe, I have in my attic 1 meter of paper. I'm a paper person, I must admit that, a paper with materials. And I would say 50% I couldn't even use because there was no place, and then people were still complaining that the book was too big, so so too many pages. So unfortunately we could not put more in it, but I hope that in the next edition of the Smart Cities Marketplace that we will have room with the wiki to make the links to the not only within our community but also the outside links to Covenant of Mayors, to the Net Zero Cities platform, to Civitas, etc. And really collect all those best practices in a good way, and also disclose them in a good way. So I'm really hopeful for that, and I'm really proud that the guidance package made it to a kind of foundation for that work in future. So for now, I would like to conclude this. A big hand for our Action Cluster chairs. Thank you all for all the work you have done. And now I would like to invite everybody to write something on the post-its. They are distributed everywhere. You can go to our knowledge wall. It's not a huge wall, it's not the Berlin Wall, but it will be sufficient for today. Please write your name there and write a topic that you would like to discuss. We have 9 cross-cutting topics we think that are relevant today and of interest for a lot of people here present. We will single out then the, let's say, about 6 that have most popularity, and then we will go into breakout sessions, and after that we will come back here for a brief wrap-up. I will briefly mention the topics because I forgot to do that. I hope I can go back. No? Okay, then I will just mention them. So, I need my glasses for that. We have one topic about technology for citizen engagement. How can technology, especially IT technology and urban data, contribute towards the urban Green Deal, the European Green Deal, sorry, and the new European Bauhaus. So that's the first topic. The second topic is about energy communities. They have become a very important topic of EU policies, but how can you empower them and anchor them in local ecosystems? The third topic is capturing the value for achieving the European Green Deal. It's about the value of personal data and how you can use that to generate income and support for local development of the data economy. The fourth topic is by Grazia. She already explained it a bit. It's about smart data, especially satellite data for urban resilience to natural hazards and how public administrations can make better use of it. Then we have a session on the urban mobility framework in the light of the new mission on climate neutral and smart cities, or it's not a new mission, but the execution of the mission by the Net Zero Cities platform. The investor perspective, how can we create more financial viable projects, systemic changes in governance, artificial intelligence on how to make it work for local ecosystems, and lastly, beyond natural gas, carbon neutral heating and cooling in cities, especially interesting also in the light of the current energy crisis. And I forgot to say about the artificial intelligence topic. It's also about preventing gender and race bias through co-creation under different contexts. So please write your name and the topic you would like to discuss or whatever is on your mind, and put it on the knowledge wall and we will create the groups. Thank you.